bag. I'll get it. What's up, potheads and political junkies? You're watching Cannabis Culture News Live. I am Jeremiah Vandermeer, editor of Cannabis Culture. It is Friday, January 4th, 2013 today. 2013, it's the new year. We're still here after a 1-week vacation. We didn't do a show last week, but we're back. Hope you guys had a good vacation. Missed you guys out there in Pot TV land. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm just going to check out the chat here. What's up, chatters? Good to see you there. All right, so we have a big show for you all today. On the show, we have Mason Tvert, who is the director of the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol, the successful campaign to do just that in Colorado. Mason is the guy behind the big legalization drive down there, also behind Safer Colorado. He'll be on the show to discuss a new petition he has up on We the People about Vice President Joe Biden and his opposition to the drug war. So we'll talk about that with Mason. And we may have another guest on the show. I just want to 100% confirm when we play the next video that he will be available, but before I give anything away. But we may also have another guest on the show, but we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. Before we do anything, though, I wanted to talk to you guys about the fact that it's Jody's birthday today. It's Jody Emery's birthday. Happy birthday, princess. We love you so much. Big happy birthday to Jody. We got Karina over here blowing up balloons right now. We're going to have a little party tonight for Jody. So everybody out there, go and wish Jody a happy birthday on her Facebook page. Anyway, just wanted to say that. We all love Jody very much. She's the greatest boss and friend in the universe. So there you go. Happy birthday, Jody. We love you. And also, I wanted to say a big thank you to Chris Goodwin and Vapor Central. We love everybody out there at Vapor Central. Chris did a really great video compilation of clips of me on the show here, me hitting the bong and some stuff. I'm going to play that for you guys right now, actually. It's the first video up on the list here. But Chris Goodwin put this together, and I thought it was pretty cute. I watched it for the first time just after midnight on New Year's, and so I was pleased to see the mix. Check it out, and then we'll talk more on the other side, and I'll hit the bong. What's up, potheads and political junkies? 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 This is Cannabis Culture News Live.
You know, that's taking it up a notch.
So you're plateauing at 420.
Whew, I put some lung into that one.
So that's happening in rural views anyway.
Delicious. Woo.
Yeah, he's gonna hurt me.
I'm gonna reload it for you. This one's live. Thanks, Duchess, for a good 2012. And Princess, who was there for a while. Awesome. I have a bit of a cold today, so if I sound like rugged, you know why. Anyways, good to see everybody there. That was really cool. Thanks, Chris, for putting that together. You guys rock. Vapor Central rocks, obviously. Okay, what else do I have to do here today? I got a big, long list of stuff to do today, actually. I got videos, a bunch of stuff. Okay, now here's the thing. I was going to talk about what happened here yesterday, which was Tommy Chong showing up at the store. But, Marius, those pictures of Tommy are on my email account, and we haven't logged into my email account over on my computer yet. Maybe we'll show those pictures off a little bit later. But I took some pictures of Tommy hanging out with us and stuff that I wanted to show you guys on the show today. Maybe we'll just jump ahead here, and I'll get into Ted Smith. Now, Ted Smith, a lot of you guys, if you watch the show, you'll know who Ted is. He's an activist from Victoria who's done a lot of really great work there for a long time. He's fantastic, one of the hardest working activists anywhere. And he is now calling with the International Hempology Society, which he is one of the directors of, or the director of, a director of. On Thursday, February 21st, the Hempology 101 Society will organize rallies at MP offices across the country to protest the new MMPR. So that's our new medical marijuana system that Health Canada has just come up with. On the same day, we will organize a phone jam aimed at the minister responsible for Health Canada, Leona Aglukak. I can never pronounce her damn name. I got to figure that one out. Given those unable to physically attend a rally a chance to stick a wrench in the system too. We will encourage others to write to newspapers around the same time in a last-ditch attempt to raise awareness about this deplorable move by the federal government. So there's going to be office occupations and a big phone jam going on. Now, if you guys don't know about the office occupations that we pulled off before at MP offices across Canada, it was pretty awesome. There's some cool videos online on Pot TV and other places on YouTube of us actually occupying these offices, and if they weren't home, we vandalized them with chalk and drew stuff all over them, and it was a lot of fun. We got our message across. We actually even rolled joints inside James Moore's office. We made it on CBC. I think myself and Jacob Hunter, an activist, went down to Power and Politics on CBC with Evan Solomon and talked about it. It was a lot of fun, but those were Mark Emery protests. So they're taking the same model here and running with it against the MMPR, which is a really great idea. So everybody should go to hempology101.ca or just hempology.ca, and you can find out more information about this as we get closer to February 21st. There'll also be information about it on the front page of Cannabis Culture very soon, within the next few days. So yeah, everybody that wants to know more about the MMPR can check out the last couple shows we've done here. Our last show, we actually interviewed Kirk Tusaw, a lawyer who gave us some of the details about the new MMPR system and the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, and how that's going to change the whole system here in Canada for medical marijuana users. The worst part of it, of course, is that it's taking away personal cultivation from growers here in Canada who are now allowed to grow their own marijuana. Those people won't be allowed by March 2014 to grow their own marijuana anymore, unfortunately. So that's a really, really huge flaw in this new system, and that's one of the main reasons we should be protesting it. There's a lot of other ones too. There's some good in it, but there's not very much good in it, unfortunately. So, okay, we got Ted Smith's new thing. Okay, now I wanted to also talk about something else that Ted's involved in. Ted has been associated for a long time with the Cannabis Buyers Club of Canada, and Ted is single-handedly has worked very hard. Not single-handedly, he's got a good team of people around him, but the guy and his close team of people have really slugged it away for 15 years with the Cannabis Buyers Club, helping people in Victoria, British Columbia, medical marijuana users obtain good quality marijuana. Now, they were busted recently actually making baked goods in a bakery. Owen Smith, no relation, but a friend of Ted Smith's, was arrested and charged for the baked goods that he had made. This case has been ongoing. Now the case has been basically tossed out the charges. The government has tossed out the charges against Owen, and I do have a video here to play for you guys. Somewhere on my list. There it is. The video will explain more for y'all. And yeah, Ted Smith, not Owen, but Ted will be on the show next week. He's going to be in town here in Vancouver, so he'll be stopping by the show and talking more about not only the Cannabis Buyers Club stuff, but his protest. So check this out. This is Owen Smith. Charges thrown out.
Medical marijuana advocates are celebrating a decision to drop criminal trafficking charges against a Victoria man. Owen Smith baked pot-laced cookies for patients who could legally access the drug until he was arrested in December 2009 during a raid on the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. 3 years later, the club is hailing a decision by Crown prosecutors to halt criminal proceedings a victory. Keith Voss reports.
Fresh from the oven, a baking dish full of pot emerges. Ready to be blended with butter, as Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club baker Jason Balaam turns dried marijuana into cookies for their clients. While at the club's Johnson Street store, the man who used to do the baking is savoring some good news. Owen Smith learned last week that the federal Crown is quitting its 3-year-old case against him on possession and trafficking charges.
Really happy to have the pressure off of all of our shoulders for all the members that were going to testify, and it's a good day to celebrate.
Smith was arrested at this downtown condo building in December 2009 after complaints from neighbors led Victoria Police to raid the club's bakery, then operating in one of the apartments. When the case went to trial earlier this year, Smith's lawyer won a BC Supreme Court ruling that parts of Canada's medical marijuana laws limiting licensed users to smoking the drug were unconstitutional, and that they should be allowed to turn their pot into food or skin oils and creams.
The extension of that is that for patients that can't look after themselves, caregivers such as Owen and myself should be allowed to do that.
Now, 8 months later, the club's lawyer has been told the Crown doesn't believe it can secure a criminal conviction in the case.
This should have been their immediate conclusion. For the Department of Justice to think that the judge could rule the law unconstitutional, but that a jury would still find Owen guilty of a crime, I think was unreasonable.
But they are still expecting the government to appeal the ruling, allowing them to bake cookies for clients. And that's a battle the club is keen to fight, on the belief that edibles and skin creams are a safer and healthier way for people who need medical marijuana to consume it.
They're often going to use less prescription drugs than they use. They're going to feel better. They're going to save money. And they're going to smoke less if they're already smoking cannabis.
And now freed from the worry he could face jail time, Owen Smith is confident the courts will continue to back access to medical pot in whatever form the users need.
It's clear that we're changing, that society is transforming. I'm proud to be.
All right. It's 4:20 right now. I just heard the Marius alarm go off over there. Marius, you want to come and have a bong rip? And Karina, you should come and have a bong rip too. You're off Marius is off bong rips? What's going on with that, Marius? His throat is too sensitive these days, he says. Well, I understand that. Karina, you're coming on. You want one out of the Boom Falazi, though.
Yes, I do.
So not only do we have Duchess sitting up here with us, but we also have the Boom Falazi, and we have the lovely Karina Gonzalez, my lady, who's here blowing up balloons for Jody's birthday and decorating and did all the decorations. Karina, you can talk to the microphone.
Hello.
There you go. So you want a Boom Falazi rip.
Yes, please.
So where is the princess right now? She's off doing stuff or
I
something?
think they have her busy.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Keeping her distracted while this place gets decorated for her party tonight?
She's distracted.
Well, I knew somebody told her about the party anyway. So the surprise.
It, so it's not a surprise, but at least the color scheme will be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it looks very nice. I do like it. Maybe we'll take some pictures and post the pictures up on Facebook and other places. And if you're not friends with me on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/jeremiah.vandermeer and become my friend. Or Karina, they can come and be friends with you, can't they?
Sure.
That's asking for trouble. That's asking for real trouble out there. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to load your bong up, but we got a big party planned for the night. Do you know what's actually happening? Is there food and stuff, or is it drinks?
There will be snacks. There will be a chocolate fountain.
A chocolate fountain?
Yes.
Is Mr. Cookie involved?
I think so.
Mr. Cookie must be involved if there's a chocolate fountain in the house. Is it it must be infused as well, I'm assuming.
I don't know about that.
Well, usually it's an infused chocolate fountain. Okay, so there's your Boom Falazi. Do you want me to light it for you? You got it?
I got it.
It's not a huge bong.
No, it's a little guy.
Karina
That's why I
has
like
trouble
it.
with the big, huge bongs because they're just about as tall as her. Her arms can't reach. Nice hit. Boom. Thanks, Karina.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a good hit.
Nice. Cool, well, good work on the balloons. Should be fun. I don't know how long the show will go. Maybe we'll wrap it up before 6 o'clock today, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I wanted to get into some Obama stuff, because the theme of the show today is 2013, the drug war continues, and unfortunately, though Obama, just before the holiday break, told a journalist, I have the video here, that he was going to leave marijuana users in Colorado and Washington alone, essentially, is what he said. I'll play the video for you guys. You watched it on my show either last week or the week before, and I just wanted to play it one more time for you guys, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about what's actually happening now. Here it is.
Becoming a holiday tradition. It airs tonight on 2020, and Barbara's here with some of the highlights right now. You got the full tour, as always.
I got the full tour of the White House with the star of the White House, and it's not the president of the First Lady. You know who it is. It's Bo.
It is Bo, but you did sit down with the president and cover a lot of the news of the day as well.
We did. We talked to the two of them, and you will see that they're very different when they're together. They're very funny and cute. But we also asked the president a very important question about the legalization of marijuana, because there are 2 states in which it is legal.
Washington and Colorado. Let's take a look.
Do you think that marijuana should be legalized?
I wouldn't go that far, but what I think is that at this point, Washington and Colorado, you've seen the voters speak on this issue. And as it is, you know, the federal government has a lot to do when it comes to criminal prosecutions. It does not make sense from a prioritization point of view for us to focus on recreational drug users in a state that has already said that under state law that's legal.
That's interesting. So the president doesn't want a conflict with the states on this, even though it's the Attorney General's final decision.
And I asked him about the fact that when he was younger, he smoked marijuana, and what does he tell his girls? And he says what a lot of parents say, don't make the mistakes that I made.
That's the only thing he can say.
That's
you also talked to the president about how he's spending that little bit of spare time he has.
And you see the 2 of them together quarreling about Scrabble, no less. Take a look. You have an iPad.
I do.
Yes. What's your favorite app?
Scrabble.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Gosh, sometimes I want to yank that out of your hands.
Who wins?
He's good at Scrabble. He's very irritating.
She doesn't like losing, so she stops playing.
No, I don't like losing to you because you're a little irritating when you win.
All right, we don't need to see the Scrabble thing again. But, so there Obama is saying he's going to leave users alone, or, no, he's kind of being vague, like he usually is. He's using a lot of rhetoric in the things he says and not really getting quite to the point, as politicians do. But, so, I did want to tell you guys, before I tell you exactly what's happening now, there's a new media advisory that just came out from Americans for Safe Access here about the Obama administration throwing medical marijuana patients into federal prison at an unprecedented rate. So it's still happening. The administration is still aggressively going after medical marijuana states, and it's reached, this media advisory says it's reached a fever pitch this month, with 3 people being sentenced, 2 others due to surrender to federal authorities to serve out sentences of up to 5 years in prison, and 1 federal trial in Montana currently scheduled for January 14th. 2 of the 3 people being sentenced in the coming month, Montana cultivator Chris Williams and Los Angeles area dispensary operator Aaron Sandinsky, face 5 and 10 years to life, respectively. So these are big sentences, and this is medical marijuana, and the Obama administration has said before that they were going to leave the medical marijuana states up to themselves, allow them to do what they wanted and not do this, but they're doing exactly the opposite of what they say. So does Obama saying that to Barbara Walters really matter? Is he just going to continue to do whatever the fuck he wants? Probably. These guys don't seem to really, you know, they say one thing and do the other, and I guess that's the name of the game in politics, but they're wearing it on their sleeves on this one. It's about as blatant as you can be. They're continuing to go. I'm going to play this clip from John Stossel. Now, John Stossel is a libertarian, right-wing type of fellow. I do like a lot of his libertarian ideas. I don't like all of them, but he is a Fox News host, so there's definitely the good and the bad. But Stossel, Chris Goodwin definitely, I think, likes John Stossel. He's got a lot of ideas. Anyway, I'm going to play this clip. John has a couple different people on his show to debate Obama and a little bit of the history of how Obama's treated marijuana in the past 4 years of his administration. This is a cool clip. Check it out, and we'll talk more about Obama on the other side.
You know, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
That was the sound of handcuffs clicking on someone, because every 19 seconds, somewhere in America, someone's arrested for drugs. Every 19 seconds. So what does my crystal ball show? Well, Colorado and Washington just legalized weed. What'll that mean? Let's ask Theodore Dalrymple, former prison psychiatrist who says drug laws are absolutely needed. And Nick Gillespie of Reason TV, who says, are you kidding me? These laws do more harm than good. So what do you mean more harm than good?
Well, I think any dispassionate analysis of the costs and benefits...
Nobody's dispassionate.
Well, let's put it this way. Any dollars and cents, any barely rational cost-benefit analysis of the war on drugs, I think would come out and say that these laws, to the extent that they do anything good, the costs are much higher in terms of human suffering, in terms of violence driven by black markets, and in terms of the disruption of American foreign policy, American education policy, and American medical policy.
Because the law creates all these black markets.
That's right. It causes many more problems than it addresses.
Now, Dr. Dalrymple, I can't really argue with him because I agree with him.
Yes.
But you don't, so why are we wrong?
I don't agree because actually a lot of the problems of drug taking do not arise out of their illegality. For example, the biggest drug problem in this country at the moment is legally prescribed opiates. 2 million people have been turned into addicts by perfectly legal means, and there are many other examples in the world.
Oxycodone.
Yes, Oxycontin, that kind of thing.
Government is not making hundreds of thousands of arrests a year over Oxycontin. They're doing it over marijuana, basically, and that's where we need to be talking about. Do we want to have a massive federal and state and local project that we call the war on drugs going on, where it's filling up prisons, where it is taking time away from other necessary purposes and things like that, all to say, like, let's say that there are some people who get addicted to a particular type of drug. That doesn't mean all drugs should be illegal, because that's not what the typical user does. We don't say because there are alcoholics we should get rid of booze. We don't say because there are gambling.
We tried that.
Yeah, we did, and it had some effects where it did reduce the number of drinkers in the country, but it exacerbated problems.
Lots of deaths from alcohol.
Actually, when you look at the figures of during the Prohibition, I worked out the murder rate, for example. The murder rate went up during Prohibition by 35%. But it went up in the years before, exactly the same period, by 85%. And between 1900 and 1906, it went up by 325%. It's true that it went down after Prohibition, but I don't think it had anything to do with Prohibition.
Well, this is a pretty thin supposition. The legacy of Prohibition in the United States was organized crime. We know that the drug war has created a similar type of violent gang activity that is around the contraband distribution.
Now, let's talk about the next 4 years. You got a couple states legalizing beyond so-called medical use.
Right.
That's how Prohibition ended, when some states said we're not going to enforce this.
That's right. And
what's going to happen?
We're at the beginning of that, where Colorado and Washington, by large margins, 55, 56% of the people saying yes to legalizing all aspects of marijuana production, consumption, use. What happens next for the Obama administration is a much more difficult question, because he was against the states getting the right to decide this type of thing. The Supreme Court has ruled against the states in terms of medical marijuana. They said federal law
prevails.
There is no reason to believe that Obama is going to go gentle into this good night, which will be a lot more interesting, a lot more fun, and a lot more laid back because of legal marijuana. But I think he will have to eventually assent to it.
My guess is that he will try, if he's a typical politician, as I suppose he is, to satisfy both sides at the same time.
And this is what calls me some of the hypocrisy in that clip we played of President Obama saying, yeah, I inhaled, that was the point. He's laughing. And that seemed odd. And then again, a few years later, once he was president, he got an online question about medical marijuana.
I don't know what this says about the online audience, but
ha ha, so
but
funny.
I just want I don't want people to think that this was a fairly popular question. We want to make sure that it was answered. The answer is no. I don't think that is a good strategy to grow our economy. So
he's saying, I smoked weed, yeah, it was great, laugh, laugh, ha, ha, but I'm going to lock you up.
This is one of the most cynical dimensions of Obama as a politician, and he gets a free pass from people in the media and people who support him who think he's on their side. He's shown no indication of that. He's even upped the ante by running a campaign ad with one of the actors who went on to serve him from the Harold and Kumar franchise.
Yeah, well, let's play that ad, and I can't believe that this was part of the official Obama campaign.
Hey, this is Barack. Listen, I need to know if you're on board. Okay, good. Because I'm counting on you. Everybody is. We have to get this right.
Standard stuff so far, but then...
Just remember that I'm trusting you on this, and I'll see you there.
Dude, who was that? Sounded intense. The president. Sweet.
So again, ha ha ha, what a joke, these stoner guys. I enjoyed their movies. Harold and Kumar go to White Castle and all that. But he's locking up thousands of people.
That's right.
I mean even you who support the war must think this is wrong.
Well, of course, and the same thing has happened in England, although in England we don't lock up people for possession, for example. What happens is the politicians say they're very much against cannabis. They maintain the law which prohibits it, but in fact they don't try to enforce the law. That's the difference between the United States. There's no effort in Britain to enforce the law.
This, you know, the war on marijuana in particular and the ongoing federal war is not just wrong, but it is absolutely corrupting of the moral fiber of the country. If you have the president making fun of laws that he himself is prosecuting, hundreds of thousands of people are arrested every year, 800,000 people for marijuana possession alone. This is not a laughing matter, and it's about time that he catches up with the American people who over the past 10, 15, 20 years have moved to a majority of people saying that marijuana should be legalized. That's the future, and it would be nice to think that, at least in this case, Obama, who is constantly hauling out stupid social democratic ideals from Europe in the 70s, is actually looking forward.
What's up? Hey! David Malmo-Levine's in the house. Come over here, David.
You need the skinny, the 411.
That's right,
the
David.
Truth, spat at you.
The skinny from David?
The skinny from the fat man. Yeah, it's because I'm just chock full of the truth. See, the situation here is we got the natural versus the synthetic. We got the inclusive versus the exclusive. We got the monopolistic versus the people who share. And you got to decide which side you're on, because the two forces are coming to a head, and it's going to be the natural world, the sustainable world, versus the monopolistic, artificial, synthetic, fossil fuel driven death culture that can't last too much longer. So choose wisely, young Jedis.
Are you on mushrooms, David?
I'm just inspired. I'm happy, I'm hungry, I'm relaxed, I'm inspired, and I'm focused.
Nice.
And it comes from being next to the most beautiful flowers in the world. So, I'll leave you with those thoughts, man.
Thanks, David. Do you want a bong rip or anything?
Oh, no, I'm much too high on the revolution, brother.
Thanks for thanks for coming on for that little bit. Yeah, DML is sublimated, said VC Freedom in the chat. I see there's a lot of talk about the sublimator. You guys, somebody may have seen that on the show, on Marijuana Man's show. I know Rom and others saw it and are talking about it, or have been since. Everybody thinks it's just a vaporizer, which is probably true. I don't know if it's a different process at all or anything, but I guess we'll have to wait till the articles and stuff come out. Anyways, tangents. We were talking about Obama, and before we bring Mason Tvert on, who is the director of the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol, Amendment 64 in Colorado, the successful campaign, he's going to come on and talk to us about the Obama administration's continued battle against what's going on in Colorado and other places, and the petition he's got up on We the People. But I want to play a little news clip about what's happening in Colorado right now. In Colorado, at the moment, there's a Club 64 that just opened up, which is a vapor lounge, a lot like the one that I'm broadcasting to you from right now. I guess we could sweep this camera around. That was the Vapor Lounge. That's the second floor of the Vapor Lounge. We have 2 floors of it here. So it's a kind of similar idea that they're doing in Colorado, where people can bring in their own marijuana, smoke it there. You can't buy any there, but here we have vaporizers that people can use and bong rentals and that kind of stuff. Hopefully I didn't screw up the shot too much, Marius, by moving it around. It's okay? Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to play this little clip about the new Club 64 that opened in Colorado. Now, there's a couple of these smoking lounges that opened. One of them I heard has already been shut down or closed. I guess the landlord went after the guy once all the news got out. But check this out, and we'll talk a little bit more about Colorado on the other side.
On CNN.
Welcome to Club 64, Denver, Colorado.
It's 4:20 p.m., the traditional time for stoners to light up, and Denver's first cannabis establishment, Club 64, is open for business. The club gets its name from Amendment 64, which legalized recreational use of marijuana in Colorado. Their first meeting, New Year's Eve, was in a warehouse. It's a private club open only to members who paid a $30 fee.
You cannot buy marijuana from the club, but you can come in here, you can bring marijuana, you can share marijuana.
Owner Rob Corey, a longtime marijuana advocate, says the club is the culmination of a long-fought battle.
I mean, this club is what the voters of Colorado finally wanted. They wanted adults to be able to get together and exercise our freedoms together.
Gabriel Kinderay is a charter member of Club 64.
Up until today, we were the kind of people that had to be secretive about who we were and how we lived our lives. And over the last couple of years, we've been able to really start talking more openly about what we do with people, and they've accepted it, and that's great.
Miguel Lopez hopes Amendment 64 and Club 64 can serve as a model for the rest of the world.
Let Denver serve as a beacon of hope for those who know and want to know what true freedom is really about.
It will be another year before stores selling marijuana can open here. It's unclear exactly how the industry will operate since marijuana remains prohibited by federal law. Denver police have told CNN affiliate KDVR they're waiting for guidance from the city attorney and district attorney to see what, if any, action should be taken. But for co-owner Chloe Villano, Club 64 is the start of a major change.
I have so many dreams and so many visions for this industry, but I mean, I see it as a place where people can come together and enjoy each other's company and associate and really be open about the use of cannabis just like they are alcohol.
And she says it's nothing to be afraid of.
I think the worst that can happen is we'll probably be closed a lot earlier than most bars because everyone will want to sleep.
Jim Spellman, CNN, Denver.
All right. So Mason, how you doing, man?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing really good here. Got a bit of a cold, so I kind of sound a little funny, but we just watched a little clip, actually, of the new Club 64 there in Colorado that's opened up. I didn't actually ask you about that earlier when I was on the phone with you. I don't know. What are you? Have you seen the Club 64 thing? What do you think of it?
Well, at this point, it's pretty foolish. We're in the process of trying to establish a system of regulated sales where we actually have a controlled marketplace, which is what is needed. And this is just basically, going out there and just doing this and really throwing the conversation off and making a lot of people think that this is going to be completely out of control. And it really would have been a better idea to wait and get this system established before just trying to do these things and really hype them. It's just really a little premature. So you know, it is what it is. But
right.
It's certainly not the goal right now.
Really? Yeah, see, I didn't really, I saw a little bit of the news about it, and I saw that some people didn't like the idea, and I saw that others did. But I did hate to spring it on you, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, I just saw that it had come up there, and it seemed like an interesting concept. It's kind of like a vapor lounge idea, I guess, though, right? They're not actually selling the marijuana in, but I guess that's why it's a sort of a confusing thing or something.
Well, they're basically, you know, you've got a bunch of people who are trying to figure out how to set up this system and create the rules and the laws around it, and you're going out and just, you know, making that a big public ordeal where now it's going to be, you know, it could force a knee-jerk reaction to that type of thing. It's just, it really was not something that needed to be addressed right now before we have this full law implemented.
Right. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the successful campaign that you guys waged there in Colorado, and how that's actually going to play out from here forward. Let's talk a little bit about what you're saying there, this setting up of this system. How is that working?
Well, the governor created a task force, and that task force has now met a couple times, and there's also, or at least once, there's also working groups within the task force. So they need to do this pretty quickly. We need to have these recommendations finalized by the task force that is you know, making these recommendations to the legislature. They have to be done by the end of February. There's a whole lot of issues, obviously, to go over. So these working groups have just begun to meet, and you know, over the next 2 months, basically month and a half, we will see these recommendations come together, and they will then go to the legislature, which should end up moving forward and adopting them.
Very cool. And so within a certain amount of time, we'll start to see this really pick up then. And so, but something like what's happening now with Joe Biden, does that stand to interrupt any of this? And does that throw a wrench in any of these kind of gears? Or how, you know, there's still that war going on between the federal government and what's happening there in Colorado? And I know you have this petition out now. Maybe tell us a bit about what's happening there.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, it remains to be seen, because the federal government has been very quiet about what they plan to do, if anything. You know, obviously we saw President Obama say on television that, you know, it's not a priority to arrest and prosecute individual marijuana users, but that's really been a policy for years. You know, the federal government does not go after individual adults for possession, and they've said that for years. But the more important thing that was said by the president was that there needs to be a conversation about how Congress can reconcile federal and state laws, which is really what does need to happen. And, you know, he didn't say we need to figure out how to squash these laws in the states. He said we need to figure out how they can work together. So that is a debate that's going to happen in Congress here. It's already happening, and it'll really pick up. And meanwhile, you know, we'll move forward with our system. But, you know, we know that Vice President Biden is one of the most vehement opponents of marijuana policy reform. He has, you know, he created the term drug czar, for example. He's been he's pushed for anti-marijuana legislation in the past. And according to a former White House drug policy advisor, a former drug czar lackey, if you will, made a comment to Rolling Stone that he doesn't think the White House will ever allow this because of Biden. So we've created a whitehouse.gov petition where if you collect 25,000 signatures, the White House is forced to respond. It calls on Biden to stay out of the way and not interfere, and to respect Colorado voters and Washington voters. We so far have about 18,000 signatures, but you need 25,000. We've only got about 5 days, so check that out. You can go to the Facebook page, you know, the campaign's Facebook page, or even just Safer's Facebook page, which is just Facebook/Safer Choice, and get your name on that petition.
Right, and people can actually go to the show notes for today's show and find a direct link to the petition there at We the People. And so this We the People petition, now tell us a little bit about this We the People system and what that actually means. That will go to the president and they'll actually have to answer this, right?
Yeah, basically the White House, when Obama took off, they set up a system online where you can start a petition, calling on the White House to address an issue, and if you can get 25,000 signatures on it within 30 days, then the White House will respond to it. And we've seen these happen with other issues before. We've seen it happen with marijuana before. So that threshold, 25,000, we've got 15,500. We've only got 5. Hit that threshold, and we can have a conversation about what the vice president will or will not do, and really make sure that they're aware that people do not want the vice president getting in the way.
Right. Yeah, it's odd that, I played a clip earlier on the show of Obama recently on Barbara Walters there talking about leaving users alone, but he really didn't go very far there. Do you have any comments on what he said in that newscast?
Yeah, well, as I was saying, that is not only not very far. I mean, it's relevant. One of the most important parts here is that he didn't shrug his shoulders and scoff and laugh and just brush off the question. He actually did recognize this is a serious issue, that the 2 states have voted to legalize marijuana, that, this is really picking up, and so he did actually address the question seriously, which is a good start. He said that they're not going to make it a priority to arrest individuals. As you said, that's not going very far. That's something that the DEA, that the Justice Department has said for years, that they're not going to deal with that. They don't have the resources. The biggest thing that Obama said is that there needs to be a conversation in Congress about reconciling state and federal laws, and that is a conversation that's already starting to happen and will continue to, especially with some of the bills moving.
Very cool. Well, Mason, you guys are doing fantastic work there in Colorado. I mean, this is what must have been such an exciting thing for you guys there. I had you on the show before November, I believe. It was just before November, and you guys were right in the middle of the storm, making sure everything was happening there. But I just wanted to say thanks for all your hard work, and we know you guys are working very hard down there. And I hope that you guys, have more success down there, and that the government doesn't come down too hard. We'll see what happens. We're fighting our own battle up here in Canada. We have our Stephen Harper going the opposite way here in Canada, so we have a completely separate fight now. And now they're really clamping down on medical marijuana users too. So it's some crazy stuff up here. Even the fight never stops, no matter where you are, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. Well, hopefully we can start having the American government set a good example for the Canadian government, which would be a rare situation. So.
No kidding. Now, since this has happened, Mason, have you got a lot more people coming to pursue you for support and that kind of thing? Are people coming out of the woodwork, or has it been, it seems to us that it's just been from all over the place, even to us. Media swarming all over the place, of course, but even like politicians and other people seem a lot more easy to approach these days.
Yeah, and I think that it's very clear now that this is a serious policy issue, which a lot of people have obviously known for quite some time, but this has really forced it out there, and it's what we expected would happen is we've got now 18 medical marijuana states with medical marijuana legislation pending in a number of legislatures. We've also got other states that are sure to pass initiatives similar to Colorado and Washington over the next 4 years. It's just it's now a time to take it seriously, and we're seeing that in a lot of ways. The media is obviously covering this a lot more detail, and the discussion is shifting. For example, here in Colorado, the question of whether an adult should be arrested for marijuana use is no longer a question. That's been decided. It's legal. You can now possess it and use it. The only thing being talked about is how are we going to let it be sold, and that's the conversation that should be had. So it's very different. We're seeing a lot of folks talking about it more openly and willing to spend the time talking about it than we did in the past.
Right. Well, it's exciting to watch it all happening, and I hope it moves very quickly forward. thanks so much, Mason, for coming on today. Really appreciate it. We'll have you back again soon to maybe talk about what's going on. Hopefully Biden gets the message from this petition, though. And we'll see what happens. We'll definitely talk again soon.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Mason. Cool. That was Mason Tvert. And maybe, Marius, I don't know if you want to take care of the Skype situation here. But yeah, that's very cool. Colorado's exciting. Washington's exciting. A lot of great things happening down in the U.S. I have a video clip here, actually, of a decriminalization bill that's just moved forward in Texas that's been filed. So even Texas is considering decrim. I'll play that in a little bit. I still want to talk a little bit more about this whole Obama situation. Ethan Nadelmann was recently on Fox News. Ethan Nadelmann is the head of the Drug Policy Alliance, and the Drug Policy Alliance is a national group that does a lot of really great work in the United States. Ethan, I think, is one of our great speakers. I love the way he presents himself, and I love his fun sort of arguing style. But he had a recent appearance on Fox News on the O'Reilly Factor with one of the female journalists there. I didn't catch her name, unfortunately. But I'm going to cue this up. Maybe somebody in the chat knows it. Yeah, somebody in the chat, Steeltown, said, "Oh, Jesus Christ." Yeah, this is a funny one. It's not too bad. She gives him some time to rant on and go on about his stuff. But she's also, this journalist, I don't like to use the word journalist to refer to people at Fox News, but this broadcaster. Anyways, check this out. Ethan Nadelmann versus Fox News.
In the personal story segment tonight, the George Soros-funded Drug Policy Alliance took out this full-page ad yesterday in the New York Times, and they argued for the legalization of drugs. They want to stop police from locking up heroin and cocaine users, despite the public safety threat that the users pose. Joining us now from New York is the executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance, Ethan Nadelmann. Ethan, good to see you. So I think a lot of people watching this think, okay, maybe the cat's out of the bag with marijuana in states out west, Colorado, saying marijuana is not a criminal thing anymore. A lot of people having pot parties, dancing in the streets. But they think of heroin and they think of cocaine as something very different. Heroin, they think of someone shooting up with tracks on their arms, and it's much more addictive and much more dangerous. So what is the point of this full-page advertisement, and what's the goal here?
Well, Laura, I mean, the real point was to show that, first of all, in Colorado and Washington, you know, those ballot initiatives won with overwhelming majorities, 55% in each state, saying it's time to legally regulate marijuana like alcohol rather than continuing with the failed prohibitionist policy. Those votes, by the way, were not pro-pot votes, right? Most of the people who voted for those initiatives don't smoke pot. They don't want to have pot parties in the streets and all this sort of stuff. They want police to focus on real crime. They don't want the criminals making the money. They don't want the cops arresting a zillion people each year for this stuff. They want to see the tax revenue coming from this stuff. So that's what's going on. And that's why half of all Americans, a little more now, say it's time to legally regulate marijuana. I'd wager probably more than half of all Fox viewers feel the same way. So it's about a responsible policy and saying the drug war has gone too far, and that with marijuana, we have an opportunity to take it out of the criminal justice system and legally regulate it and control it.
We'll have to do a O'Reilly Factor poll on that to see if your prediction about Fox viewers is correct.
Yeah.
But on the issue of the addictive nature of heroin, especially cocaine as well, the carnage that those drugs leave behind, and I know alcohol is a terrible carnage for American families across the board, alcohol abuse, but those drugs in particular, Joe Califano has written persuasively on how turning America into like a one big needle park where people are exchanging needles, and you get a needle exchange program, and some people aren't getting sick because they have clean needles, and that's great. But that this leads to other problems and acceptance of drug use among younger people and people who are already at risk.
Yeah,
what do you say to that?
I should be clear. And there's my organization, the Drug Policy Alliance. We're the leading one in the country advocating for alternatives to the drug war. Some of our members are libertarians who think we should legalize everything. Most probably do not go that far. And so my organization says we should reduce the role of the criminal law and criminal justice system in this. We should try to be taking the business out of the hands of the criminals, trying to find ways to regulate this stuff. But we're not saying treat heroin and cocaine like alcohol and tobacco. I mean, look at it this way also. Tobacco, even heroin addicts say that tobacco is the most addictive drug there is. By all rights, we could prohibit tobacco, we might reduce the number of smokers, right? But we also know what would happen. We'd create a vast black market, we'd have tobacco trafficantes, we'd have a multi-hundred-billion-dollar black, we'd be filling the prisons with tobacco law violators, and we'd still have tens of millions of Americans smoking. So the argument essentially is to say, to the extent we can treat the issues around heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine as public health issues, to the extent we can get serious about treating addiction, not through the criminal justice system, but through that public health system, that's a good idea. Look at what Portugal's done in the last 11 years. They said, we're not locking up anybody anymore for simple possession of a small amount of a drug if they're not behind the wheel of a car. What's happened in Portugal? No increase in drug use, but they've reduced arrests, reduced crime, reduced AIDS, reduced overdoses. So it's a sensible public health strategy that's the answer
the
with
war
respect
on
to those drugs.
To many people have been a big failure, a big waste of money, but I think the Portugal example might not be all that persuasive to people. I mean,
well,
I
only
don't
because
think
they don't
America
know
wants
about
to be
it.
Portugal.
But if you look, Laura, if you look at the facts, you see Portugal is a success.
America is not Portugal for a lot of reasons, but I love the Portuguese, don't get me wrong.
No, but the policy still makes sense. The fact of the matter is what they're doing there would work here better than what we're doing here works here.
Well, we certainly need to change the way we handle this issue, no doubt about it. Mr. Nadelmann.
What's with the Portugal hate there? Anything that's not the USA sucks. That's fucking just Fox News. These fucking guys. Scotty and Tia are in the audience here. What's up, guys? Woo, and I have Eric standing here with me. He's going to hit the boom Falazi right now. My friend Eric, good friend for a long time. How you doing, brother?
Good, good.
I don't know what we're smoking in here. Hey, Karina, what are we smoking? Did you get the name of this? You did last night? Oh, well, I got a nice, really nice little bit of some gnarly buds, but we didn't catch the name, I guess. Silly us. Anyways, yeah, so Ethan Nadelmann, he's cool. Eric, how was that?
That was fantastic.
Nice.
It's good bong.
Yeah, it's not a bad one, the Boom Falazi. I'm going to hit the Boom Falazi too in a little bit here. But I was going to load up another video for you guys. Actually, let's see, where are we on the list? Right, so we talked about Obama and all the latest stuff happening there in the U.S. We talked to Mason Tvert, and everybody should go and check out this We the People petition. There's just got a few days, I guess, before. I'm gonna put, it's actually the link to it's already in the show notes, but I was just gonna read this part. This is from Rolling Stone magazine. Here's what the former White House drug policy advisor said in Rolling Stone magazine about Biden. He said, "The vice president has a special interest in this issue. As long as he is vice president, we're very far off from legalization being a reality." So, who knows if this guy's right, but I guess these are the little secret behind the scenes looks. Who knows? I mean, that's probably just one of their excuses, right? Who knows if Biden really gives a shit or not? I mean, it could be a personal thing, or it could be that Obama has, of course, all of these lobbyists working against it, and nobody wants marijuana to be legal because it takes away their billion-dollar enterprise of keeping it under wraps. Prohibition makes a hell of a lot of money for a hell of a lot of people all over the place, and they don't want to end that. And that's not just one person like Biden or anybody else. There's a whole damn industry around prohibition, and the President of the United States just doesn't want to pull that to a halt out of nowhere. He'd piss off a lot of people for doing that. So that's my own opinion anyways. Who knows? Okay, I'm going to go to Washington State now. We were talking about Colorado, going to Washington now, and I have a video clip here. This is a trailer for a new movie called Evergreen, and Washington is the Evergreen state, I guess. And this movie is about the I-502 effort there to legalize marijuana in Washington State. And I'm going to just play the clip, and we'll talk a little bit more on the other side about Evergreen and what these guys are doing.
Thank you, everyone. I am Seattle City Attorney Peter Holmes, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today to announce a new initiative to legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana or cannabis for adult recreational use.
This initiative process is direct democracy in action. This is the majority of the people in a state saying, we need to do something different.
Washingtonians are in favor of legalization, but it's a really difficult conversation for a lot of people to have, and that's why we're gathering signatures up to the last minute. So we need 241,153 signatures, and we're not quite there yet. This is isn't just about legalizing a drug. This is about the fact that laws aren't working and lives are destroyed because of this.
We arrested more Americans in the last year than ever before, over 800,000 Americans, 90% of them for simply possessing a little marijuana.
We're the #1 jailer nation on the planet. At the heart of this is the prohibition approach to drugs.
When you look at the horizon of organized crime, of interstate and international crime, the face of it was marijuana.
The Pacific Northwest is a transient point where product comes in, is broken up, and it'll go to Frisco and LA and Houston and Miami and Chicago and New York.
The federal government, the United States federal government, has said itself that the majority of revenue flowing to the cartels comes from United States marijuana sales. I-502 is kind of the first chink in the armor of the black market that is right now destroying an entire country in Mexico.
We bear responsibility as the market that is funding those activities, and I think regulation, taxation, the control of its use is a much preferred approach.
We're official, it's real now. This has just been a huge hurdle to surmount, and now the voters are going to get their say in November.
The supporters behind I-502, I don't think, been in the trenches of where the problems are.
Police, search warrant, open the door!
There's a large part of society that the average voter in this state never sees. Every town has a place where most people never go, but the police officers go there, and we go there in the middle of the night. The proponents are touting significant savings to the criminal justice system. That's just science fiction.
Just going to be a different set of laws. Oh, you're under arrest for possession of marijuana that doesn't have a tax stamp on it. You're still under arrest for marijuana.
If your objective is to change behavior, to stop smoking marijuana because society believes it's criminal, then that's a failure, because we know that there are many, many millions who regularly smoke marijuana.
Anyone who wants to get pot can get pot.
You can grow it anywhere. You can grow it in your backyard, you can grow it in your garage, you can grow it in your living room, you can grow it in your attic.
People are selling on the street, people's friends or friends of friends are selling pot. You can get the best stuff that you want. Prohibition has utterly failed. For the first time in the country, we're seeing this cadre of former law enforcement officers and prosecutors. We're seeing public health workers and addiction specialists and attorneys who have banded together as the sponsoring committee of I-502.
I'm so excited that Washington can take the lead in helping our country out of this wrong-minded, very costly war on marijuana.
On the other side, we have a really sort of unholy alliance of the players you would expect, people representing sheriffs and police chiefs, prosecutors, teaming up with, of all possible people, medical marijuana activists.
Immoral, criminal, ethical, unscientific, unconstitutional.
Washington is up for legalizing it. We got an initiative pending, but there are huge problems with it. It's going to be a step backwards from the way it is.
This is not about right versus left. This is about what is good government.
It's a pretty dramatic departure in state law policy meant to say that we're going to take marijuana out of the hands of gangs and international cartels and put them in the hands of legitimate businesses who can manufacture, distribute, and sell in small amounts. Now that's going to set up a showdown with the federal government. There's no question about that.
This initiative will spur on federal action, and I think people in Washington will have a right to feel proud that they were the ones that started it.
That was weird. A temporary crash for some reason of my browser running the studio program. Yeah, Rom said it was hardcore show, so there you go. He's having a good time in the chat there. All right, I was going to say these guys, the Evergreen documentary, another one of Rom's favorite things, the 502 campaign. If you guys want to see this documentary made, I guess these guys are in post-production right now, and they have an Indiegogo campaign that you can go and check out at Indiegogo, which is indiegogo.com/evergreendoc, and that's where you can find that one. So I wanted to give those guys some props. And, yeah. Anyways, what's next here? So Washington State has legalization in a way, and Colorado has legalization in a way, and other states want the same kind of thing. Some of them want to do more decriminalization ideas, and some are looking more the Colorado-style model. But I have a video clip here that I talked about a little earlier from Texas. This is a decrim bill in Texas that will replace jail time with a $500 fine, which is a pretty damn steep fine if you ask me. That's huge. But I guess it's better than jail time. We could talk to David Malmo-Levine about if that is really better than jail time or not, because often the cops will issue more of these tickets, and if they give out enough of these tickets, people will end up going to jail anyway. So until knowing the specifics of the bill, I wouldn't want to really get behind this one. I'm going to play the clip for you guys to check out and see what you think of. I can't remember the number. It was like HR 184 or something, but check this out. Here's a news clip.
The Texas legislature meets in January, but House Bill 184 is already filed. It seeks to soften penalties for marijuana possession right here in the Lone Star State. Filed by Representative Harold Dutton of Houston, HB 184 would reduce possession of 1 ounce of marijuana to just a Class C misdemeanor. That's a $500 fine and no jail time. It's also enough marijuana to make between 14 to 28 hand-rolled cigarettes. Action 4 News spoke via Skype to Josh Schimberg with the Texas chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML. The Austin-based group favors full legalization, but Schimberg says HB 184 is a step in the right direction.
We are under no illusions that full decriminalization is going to come to Texas anytime soon. We just hope that this bill gets traction and maybe possibly get passed.
House Bill 184 is being touted as a way to save money for courts and police departments, and also a way to reduce overcrowding in jails. Here in the Valley, that's something Rene Jaime can agree with. He owns the Dark Secret Smoke Shop in Brownsville.
As a taxpayer myself, I'm still putting out money to get that guy a free lawyer, a free meal all the time in jail. And hey, I want that money in my pocket.
Jaime says police should go after felonies and take harder drugs like cocaine, crack, and heroin off the streets.
I see young kids, old people, who they get addicted with one try. I mean, those are the drugs that we really want to get out of our streets.
Back in Austin, Schimberg says his supporters will be meeting with lawmakers in the Texas state capitol. It's an uphill battle, but the Texas Democratic Party already has legalization of marijuana as part of their platform. Schimberg says it's only a matter of time before the rest of the state gets on the same page.
If you want to protect the children from marijuana, the best thing to do with it is to legalize it, put it on the storefront and ask for ID.
Of course, we'll be checking with local lawmakers to see how they vote on the bill during the legislature. Reporting from the newsroom, Sergio Chapa, Action 4 News.
All right. So, yeah, the Texas thing. Not so sure about a $500 fine for weed. That seems pretty crazy to me. I don't see why anybody needs to be fined anything for flowers, but that's just my opinion. What's up next here? This is a crazy show. We got a lot going on here. It's jumping all over the map. I wanted to talk about something that's on the front page of Cannabis Culture right now. The article is "Teen Marijuana Use May Show No Effect on Brain Tissue Unlike Alcohol." This is from the Huffington Post, actually. There's a video that goes with this too. I guess I'll play this video for you guys. I'm not 100% sure if I like what these people have to say in this video either, but this study is pretty good. It found that a teen who consumes alcohol is likely to have reduced brain tissue health, but a teen who uses marijuana is not, according to the study. So when anybody ever says that marijuana kills brain cells, you can say, no, alcohol kills brain cells, and this study proves it. So the researchers scanned the brains of 92 adolescents aged 16 to 20 before and after an 18-month period. During that year and a half of the teens who already had an extensive alcohol and marijuana use histories continued to use marijuana and alcohol in varying amounts. Other half abstained and kept consumption minimal, as they had throughout adolescence. They did before and after brain scans of the teens consuming typically 5 or more drinks at least twice a week. and it showed reduced white matter brain tissue health. The alcohol did. So, but the pot, they didn't see the same thing. And the marijuana use was up to 9 times a week during the 18 months and was not linked to a change in brain tissue health. So there you go. Now, the Huffington Post, they published this, and they had this little video clip that went with it. Just going to load this up. It's just about 3 minutes long. It's about the study and has a little bit more of an in-depth convo about it, so check this out.
According to a new study from UC San Diego, teenagers who drink booze are likely to have reduced brain tissue health, but the same cannot be said for teens who smoke weed. 92 16 to 20-year-olds were studied over an 18-month period. Few disclaimers. The study's authors say more research is needed to reach a definitive conclusion, and this wasn't a test of performance or intellect. And an earlier Duke study found that teens who smoke pot risk a long-term drop in IQ. So how do we reconcile all this stuff? Joining us now is Kathleen Miles of HuffPost LA.
It's not definitive, and the question of how to put together the two studies, they don't know the answers to. This study was distinct in that they were looking at physical brain scans. So they actually they took scans of these brains at the beginning of 18 months, and then they set 2 sets of teenagers off. One were drinking and smoking, and when I say smoking, I mean marijuana, and the other was abstaining from both. Afterwards, they saw physical reduced, what they call white matter brain tissue in the brains of the teens that were drinking 5 drinks, at least 5 drinks, which is a lot, at least twice a week. But the marijuana smoking teens who were doing it an average of 9 times a week saw no difference in their brain. So that's a physical brain scan. And then, as you mentioned, that study a few months ago was IQ test. So that one looked at performance, intelligence, and they did see that if you smoked marijuana before 18, substantially you could lose some points in your IQ. So is it possible that, like you said, Jacob, these kids are getting dumber, but they can't see it in the brain scan? Yeah, that is possible. The researcher did tell me that. They don't actually know the correlation between the brain scan and performance.
Of course, though, everybody is going to use this study as a reason to go out and get blazed, and we should say that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that.
Absolutely.
Well, what I think that we can take from this is, I mean, clearly there are going to be a lot of studies coming out over the years. There's still a lot of information that people want gleaned from marijuana.
It's the long-term studies that you need in order to see any significant impact, obviously.
And those don't exist, unfortunately. And, you know, you're right. The one thing we do know is that teenage brains are developing all the way until your young 20s. They're vulnerable. And I think this was a really great study to show that alcohol, even though researchers have known this, even with adult brains, it reduces memory, it reduces attention span, decision-making skills. It's a good reminder, because I think a lot of people don't think about that when they're drinking, especially if you're drinking to the point of having a hangover. You know, the marijuana studies are going to need to continue because there's so many different strands of marijuana with different levels of THC, and the long-term studies need to happen, especially because the use is up. 25% of seniors are reporting having used marijuana in the last month. That was just a study yesterday. So all other drug use is down except for marijuana. So as it becomes less stigmatized, we do need to understand it, especially when it comes to...
All right. Cool. So yeah, that was that study. Interesting stuff. What they always really fail to mention 100% though is that they don't prove that these things, like that older study that they mentioned that showed that weed dumbs you down or whatever, that study didn't actually show that really. It showed that there was some kind of a relationship between smoking marijuana and these types of lack of IQ test scores or whatever it was. So it doesn't show that it's a direct relationship. It's some kind of a correlation. So that means nothing, virtually. It means nothing. It could be related to any other thing that they didn't rule out of the study. That study that they talked about was a really poor one, and we talked a bit about it on the show when it first came out. It was just a terrible one. So I don't believe when they say that pot makes you stupid or lowers your IQ scores or anything like that. It's ridiculous. And the IQ system is totally bogus anyway, so that's a different argument, I guess. But I wanted to just talk about a couple things before we go here. I guess we're not going to take as long as I thought. Maybe we'll postpone our other guest till next week. He probably won't be able to get to us for a little while, and we'll be finishing the show before that. So we'll just have him back next week. I'm still not telling you who it is, but it'll be next week on the show. Anyways, So I wanted to talk before I go a little bit about the Sensible BC campaign. That's here in British Columbia. That's Dana Larson's campaign to decriminalize marijuana within the province of British Columbia. I've been doing a bit of reporting on it for you guys on the show. We've talked about Shirley Bond and her response to me, talking about the campaign. Last time on the show, Dana has now sent out, or the Sensible BC campaign, which is being directed by Dana, has sent out this newest 9 ways to help decriminalize in BC post to their supporters. Now I'm going to post this up on Cannabis Culture a little bit later today or this weekend, and you guys will be able to find it there. But I'm just going to read through some of the ways that people in BC can actually help people support the Sensible BC campaign. Number 1 on the list is to register supporters. Everybody can go to sensiblebc.ca right now and register as a supporter. And what that really means is if you put your name down, when it comes time in British Columbia for us to start actually collecting signatures, there's a 3-month period that we're allowed to collect those signatures within. So if we get everybody's names beforehand, we can go straight to those people, the names we've collected, to get the actual official signatures. So it's a pre-signature collection idea where we get your contact info, and that's when we get a hold of you when we need you. So register those supporters online. You can influence other people to go and register at sensiblebc.ca as well, and do it yourself if you are from the province of British Columbia. Please do. And you can become a district organizer. So there's a page on Sensible BC that will allow people to become a district organizer, and that's a person who will be responsible for helping to find and motivate other volunteers in their area. They'll be the main contacts in their region, and they'll send the district organizers campaign materials like posters, flyers, buttons, and that's what they can distribute that out to other people. Another way is to talk to local politicians. Now, I think that this is an issue, this is something that everybody should be doing about everything, especially about the drug war. Whenever you get a chance, your local politicians will entertain you at any time. You can go in and talk to them. You can sit down with your MP or your MLA and talk about the issues that are important to you. So in this case, if you go to your MLA's office here in British Columbia, bring this issue up. Say you support Sensible BC and that you want to decriminalize marijuana within the province. And basically, I haven't explained it on this show, a lot of you guys probably know, but Sensible BC will defund policing for marijuana possession laws in the province of British Columbia, so the cops won't actually be able to spend any money on arresting people. That's Dana's way and the Sensible BC campaign's way of getting around these federal laws that are actually the ones that make it illegal to have drugs in the country here. And the 4th way is to help out at the Sensible BC office. Now that's just next door to us here down at 307 West Hastings. The Sensible BC campaign office is in the Dominion building, just on the corner of Cambie and Hastings. It's a gigantic building. It's not that huge, but at one time it was the largest building in the British Empire, if you can believe it, and that was only about 100 years ago. You can also become an online activist, and that's getting out there, putting banners on web pages if you have them, spreading the message online, getting this out there on that platform. Not only do we need people pounding the pavement and going door to door and talking to people, but we also need people doing it online, and that's a really helpful thing. So become an online activist. And again, these are all great ideas, not just for Sensible BC, but for any kind of marijuana initiatives that are going on in your area or anything. I mean, these are things that could be used in any kind of activism. So, and also, you could join the canvassing team. So they have having professional canvassers who will lead you and your team in going door to door to register supporters. So that's a fun thing to do. I've done it before for the NDP campaigns, gone door to door and tried to get people on board and stuff. It's an interesting thing. It's not always fun. Some people don't like you and don't want to talk to you, but I like talking to strangers. So it's a good job. And that's one of the ones that I'd like to do. I'd like to go door to door. And also, of course, you can donate skills and supplies. So if you have access to special equipment or supplies or, you know, the whole nepotism thing, who do you know? If you know somebody that can help the campaign out in some way, give us that access. You know, and if you have your own certain set of skills that you think would be something that would be beneficial to the campaign, it doesn't have to be money or that kind of support. It can be some sort of activity, work, creative effort. And, of course, then there's donating money, which is also important. So it said 9 ways on the list, but I only see 8 here. So the last one is any questions. So I guess that's the 9th way. But anyways, so there's 8 different ways you can help the Sensible BC campaign. And if you want to find out more, just go to sensiblebc.ca. There's a ton of stuff there. And we'll have Dana back on the show to talk about this kind of stuff as the campaign continues. We'll be, of course, covering it a lot. So that was Sensible BC, and that's actually the last thing on my list. I had one other thing I wanted to show you guys. Never got the pictures together of Rihanna. She's been uploading pictures to her Twitter account of her smoking pot, showing bits of weed on her table with buds and stuff, and she caught a bit of a backlash from some of her fans about it. But go check out Rihanna's Twitter activity. She's sexy, and she's got a lot of pictures of bud, and I really like what she's doing. She's kind of pushing those boundaries for her sort of PG audience a little bit too. But anyways, at the end of the show here, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'm going to play a little comedy clip from the Jimmy Kimmel Show. This is a clip about the Humboldt University Institute for Marijuana that has been talked about. Just at the end of November, I saw the stories coming out about this institute, and we'll let Kimmel tell you more. You can find out more about the institute online. I'll put a link to the institute's information in the show notes for today's show as well. Anyway, I wanted to say a big thanks to Mason Tvert for coming on the show from the successful Colorado marijuana legalization campaign. That was a cool little interview. Next week we'll be back again. We'll have Ted Smith on the show from the Hempology 101 Society in Victoria and the Cannabis Buyers Club. He'll be on to talk about both of those issues that we talked about on the show today, about the Owen Smith case and the upcoming office occupations to protest our new medical marijuana system here in Canada, which really stinks. So anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Love you guys a lot, Pot TV. We'll be back again. Now, there is no more Monday show. I'm sorry to have to tell you guys this, but Mick is not doing his Monday show anymore. He's not able to actually come over from Vancouver Island to do the show, and he doesn't really want to do it from his house there. He's a busy guy. He's got lots of stuff on the go. So unfortunately, at least in the interim, there's no more Opus Live with McMahon. We're really disappointed about it, but we're going to be filling in our Monday slot with some stuff. We've got a couple different shows in the works. I don't want to give away too many details, but there's a lot coming up on Pot TV. And also check out the Wednesday show, of course, here right in this room, From Under the Influence with Marijuana Man and Al the Alchemist. It's going to be a big show this week again. I know they're planning some cool stuff. And we'll see you guys soon. Check out Kimmel on the way out here. Peace, guys, and happy birthday, Jody. Love you lots.
You know, there's a state college up in Northern California that has an interesting new program. The school is opening what they call the Humboldt State Institute for Interdisciplinary Marijuana Research. Now, I've never heard of Humboldt State before, but something tells me it's about to become harder to get into than Yale. The plan is to organize lectures and research to study how marijuana relates to topics like economics, geography, politics, psychology, and sociology. But they'll probably just end up playing ultimate frisbee or something. But this the new wing of the school has already been built, and we have it looks great. It's I don't know if we need this. We already have a college research institute devoted to marijuana. It's called College. You know, and I read that Humboldt State was opening a marijuana institute. I have to admit, I jumped to conclusions. I know they grow a lot of pot up there, so I assumed their student body was a bunch of stoners sitting around listening to music. But then I did a little digging. I found a website called collegewest.net. It's a site on which students from various schools give first-hand accounts of what it's like to go to those schools. And this is the guy they picked to speak about Humboldt State.
The last time I think I was involved in a club on campus, it was the Musical Instrument Liberation Committee. And our kind of motivation was to abolish a law in which you could not play musical instruments in the dorm environment. And we were successful in getting rid of that rule, so the club ceased to exist. But it was really fun being a part of that, and I met some good friends through it. And yeah.
So tuition money well spent. His parents just jumped off a bridge. This Institute for Marijuana Research is obviously getting a lot of attention, and admission is competitive. To get into school, you have to fail a lot of very rigorous drug tests. But as far as preparing kids for the future goes, if you're a student looking to get a job right out of college, it does look like a good school to put on your list.
Stuck in a dead-end job? Would you like to be? Then apply now to the Humboldt Institute for Interdisciplinary Marijuana Research and prepare yourself for a low-pressure career in such exciting fields as dog walking, snowboard rental, pizza delivery, occupying Wall Street, dressing up as Chewbacca, hype man for Lil Wayne, party clown, living in a van and selling friendship bracelets and patchouli oil, Olympic swimming, and more. Just listen to what real students have to say.
2 years ago, I helped to organize a community drum circle.
So don't just sit there baked out of your mind. Call the Humboldt Institute for Interdisciplinary Marijuana Research now.
It will be a waste of time, but I guarantee it.
The Humboldt Institute for Interdisciplinary Marijuana Research. Higher education.
See, because it's higher. Can you organize a drum circle? I think drum circles just organize themselves.
Yeah, came back for a final bong rip. I didn't say bye to Duchess, so here we go. Love you, Pot TV. Peace.